Welcome back to my sewing room. I'm Kelly and you found me here on Pick and Stitches, and today we're going to be sewing out month 2 of the Dragon Fruit Block of the Month. If you haven't seen it, that's a sew along with Fat Quarter Shop. I'm really enjoying it. It's a lot of fun foundation paper piecing. If you're not familiar with it, I'm going to walk you through each step of the way, so let's jump right on in. Okay, so we're going to be working on a couple of these newer blocks. Every month we're doing about 4 different styles of blocks. So this month we're going to be doing 2 of these economy blocks, 2 different patterns. And then we're also going to be doing 2 of these square in a square blocks. So once we've completed this, then we're going to build our first block, which is kind of fun to see it come together a little bit. I honestly thought that I might not sew these together yet because I don't think they're going to fit in my little box that I use as my tote once they're in a block format, but I just decided I would go ahead and dedicate an entire design board to it, and that way I can start stacking them and kind of keeping them all together. So I hope you guys are having as much fun with this sew along as I am. Let's jump in and make this month's blocks.
Okay, so I've cut out all of our blocks. We've got 2 blocks on this board and I've got 2 blocks on this board. We've got our square and a square and then our economy blocks. One thing I wanted to point out, because honestly guys, I have cut out the first 3 months of quilt blocks and I didn't notice this, is in the book, as you're looking at it, we have very detailed pictures with the fabric that we're going to be using, but we also have the exact cutting instructions you're going to need for each block. A lot of times when you're in these foundation paper piecing books, they're not colored the way that some of these are colored with the additional colors. And so it really does help to just kind of go through. Now, what it doesn't say, it even says what placement it is. So placement 1, placement 2 through 5. So that's really helpful when you get into these other months, especially like this one on month 3, so that you know which ones are going to be pink and which ones are going to be orange, because typically you would have all of those be a similar color. So I hope that helps. So let's do the square and a square first. Both of these are going to be very fast and very similar to one another. The first thing I always like to do, birth out. And then I just like this add a quarter ruler. This is an add a quarter plus. So on this side, it has a lip and a ledge that makes it really easy to cut. And on this side, it's like a beveled edge so that it's kind of going to give you those nice crisp corners. So I just want to fold my paper around, and you can do a couple at a time. It does not have to be perfect. This is just kind of getting me a guideline that I can see from the reverse side of this paper. So that's going to be for 8 blocks because we're going to have 4 in each colorway. But right now I'm just going to make 2. So we'll grab one of our centers for each one. And then we'll flip it over, grab a glue stick, and I'm just going to glue it in the center of this crease. So don't put it perpendicular. You want to go on that corner like it shows on your fold. And I just like to kind of push that down. And we will do that for both pieces. So again, you've got your numbers up. We'll flip them over, glue on the back, but then we make our fabric be the print side up. And a lot of times if I'm going to be doing really redundant trimming, I will grab a additional mat so that I'm going to be replacing this one the most frequently. Because if you're doing tons and tons of cutting on small surfaces, this one is going to wear out. But luckily, it wouldn't be like your largest mat. So you're going to fold that up along the line between 1 and 2. And then with that add a quarter ruler, we're just going to trim it off. And you can see where my block wasn't quite exactly square. That's totally fine unless you're fussy cutting something. Then we're going to go ahead and bend back 3 and do 3 as well. So we'll do that for both of these colorways here. And I'll just set the other part over onto my machine. So again, we're going to do piece 2 and piece 3. And we'll do both of those at the same time, press, and then we'll do the last 2 pieces. And I really do love these square and a square, and especially the economy blocks. It just makes putting everything together nice and easy. So now we'll take some of our background colors. They are the same for both blocks, so they're interchangeable. I did have them divided to start, but I'm just going to work out of the same pile, and we'll head over to the machine and we'll stitch these on. What I'm going to do is just take my fabric, right sides together, and once I set it on my block, I want to make sure that I've got even amounts of my points hanging off either side. And then I'll just flip it up and down this line. Okay, so I have my regular presser foot on. I'm dropped to a little shorter than the 1.5. And then we'll just get right here and stitch it down. There. Now this particular block is large enough when you flip it back over, you don't have to worry about this interfering. So we can just go ahead and do the second piece right away. So I'll flip it over, make sure as you're pushing, if you've got any difference in the height on your machine bed, that you've not let it slip out of place. So we'll stitch that down. And I'm going to do the same thing for my other colorway. Grab 2 pieces of my background fabric. I really do love this print by Tula. This is the cream one. I think we've gotten this in several of these boxes so far. So it's going to be the main border of this quilt. It's going to be really predominant. I'm excited. Okay, so we'll pick it up, grab the other side, do the same thing. Now, when you're paper piecing, you definitely want to drop your stitch length down to like 1 or 1.5. Also, if you start to have trouble tearing off the papers later on, you might switch your needle to a 90. I find with this Juki, if I'm like at a 1.275 or 1.5, I'm fine. So you kind of have to know your machine, but this comes off really easy. Okay, so when we're pressing our blocks, we definitely want to avoid steam. There is a little bit of water left in this iron from another project I was working on. So if you have a little bit, that's okay. But if you find that it's getting your paper wet, it might start to disintegrate on you, and that is not what we want. So we'll press both of those out. I'm just setting the seam. Often, if I need to do a ton of back and forth, I will do it with that little hand roller so that I don't have to go to the ironing station quite so many times. But this block is really pretty easy. So we've got our 2 blocks now. We'll flip it over. Now, as I was stitching, I actually stitched past the lines a little bit just to make sure that my items are really secure. So when I come back to the trimming station, it's already attached the paper all the way to the edge. So you just have to separate that a little bit. It's really not that hard. Of course, I say that. It's usually not that hard. This one wants to just be obstinate. It's just like a family member. Okay, so once you get that folded back, then we'll trim that off. So this little lip on this ruler helps me get exactly 1/4 of an inch. And I'll do that for this other side. And we'll do our other block while we're over here. I guess it must be me pulling on this funky. There we go. So now that we've got all 4 of those trimmed up, we're going to grab some more of our background squares and I'll meet you back at the machine. Okay, so now we'll just take our background fabrics. We're going to do the exact same thing. We're going to kind of center this right sides together. And off we go. I felt that move. That would have been no fun. So sometimes holding it as you flip it over is kind of the most challenging part of what we're doing with these paper piecing projects. Okay. So see how nice that's going to look when we get it all pressed? We'll do our other block. Okay, so now we will go press these and get ready to trim that block. Okay, so now we'll go ahead and set our seams and then press this open. Now when we trim it this time, we're not going to have to do that fold back method. We're just going to actually trim the final size of our block. So we can set this under a clapper for just a bit if we need to make sure our final trim is the best that we can make it. Okay. And so now we'll grab the ruler. I like to use the exact size ruler if you have it. If you don't, you can always use a different. This is a 4.5, so it will be perfect. And we're going to get exactly on the line. So you want to trim on this outermost gray line. We're not trimming on that inner line. We're trimming on the outer, or your blocks are going to be a little small. So we'll go around all 4 sides. Yes, technically this is a spinning mat, but it doesn't spin as well as my pink one, so I usually just rotate the whole thing because it's easier. All right. So now our paper is out of it, and that is our finished block. So at this point, I would go ahead and take it over to the ironing station and steam iron it and leave it under the clappers for a bit. But this was a really fast and easy, honestly, like month. It was an easy block to cut out. It was an easy block to put together. The other thing that we're going to be doing is the economy block, which is also very similar. So let's finish pulling this one apart and we'll take a look at that pattern. So we're going to pull these out from under our clappers, take a look. I think they turned out really cute. I like the way that this whole quilt is going to pull all of the different fabrics together. So we're going to make 4 of each of these. And then we have one other pattern this month that we're going to make. This is called the economy block. Very similar structure here. We're going to start with 1 in each color. And then we'll fold these back. So we're going to crease this with that same add a quarter ruler. Then we'll get our center block that we want for each one. So we'll have one of the florals. Double check. So with the way that this square is, we want to actually be perpendicular to the lines of the square. We'll do this other one. Okay. So next once that kind of sets, we'll trim up the 2 sides. So we're going to start here with 2 and 3. And we can do the same thing where we go in opposites again. So 2 and 3 for each colorway. Now, if it's too confusing to do more than one colorway at a time, you absolutely can just roll through, do all of these at the same time and stop. So I know I'm going to need 4 of these. And then we'll just trim up this other one in the spirit of being efficient. And what you probably want to do is like all 4 at the same time. Just do all 4 of the florals and all 4 of the geometric prints. So we know this is going to have my polka dots. See, I'm getting confused already. 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, so we'll head over to the machine and we'll take these kind of separate so I don't get them with the wrong one. Okay, so we'll line up our and then I'm just going to sew on that top one. And this is also going to be wide enough that you're not going to interfere, but I just like to fold it out of the way anyways. I do like this little roller that Lori Holt always uses just to get it nice and flat. And on the other side, okay. So then we'll go do our floral print. You do want to do the roller on something hard like your um, cutting mat would be okay. You don't want to be on something squishy though. Okay, let's go press it and get it trimmed up. Okay, so we're just going to give these a quick press so that they're nice and open for us. Oh, that's not nice and open, Kelly. Okay, then we'll get ready to trim these guys up. Let me go ahead and just pull these back by hand this time. I don't know why my little neat trick with the ruler wasn't working, but it wasn't, so we'll adjust. There we go. Okay, so then we'll go with 4 and 5. Okay, so now we'll go add the next round on this one. So we'll do my polka dots, make sure I'm on the one with polka dots. And again, this is not close enough to really interfere, but I've had ones before where I thought they wouldn't interfere and I stitched them in the line and I had to deal with trying to pull this little tiny 1 millimeter stitch or whatever out, and it just wasn't fun. All right, we'll do our other color. It's kind of one of those up, down, up, down, up, downs. If your pressing station is within reach of your sewing machine, then it probably is less so, but I kind of like that it forces me to get up so I'm not sitting in the same spot all the time. I actually walk fewer steps when I'm filming for you guys than I do normally. Normally I walk across the room, but oh well. All right, so I'm going to just loosen those up so they don't try to rip on me. Again, I usually just use my ruler, but for whatever reason, it is not playing nice. I got you, Nanda. Okay, so then we'll flip it over. Now we're going to do 6 and 7. So we'll have one more color change round on each square. And this little block is done too. This is a really quick month, guys. The courthouse steps in the log cabin are the ones that seem to take the longest. And really, they take the longest to cut out too. But these cut out pretty quickly. Okay, back to the machine. Okay, so I didn't talk about this earlier on, but I did pin my actual little blocks that came in the baggie with it so that I could see exactly what I'm trying to build out. So I know for this one, I've got the green. Next is going to be the yellow. So I'll go ahead and grab my yellows, and you probably could have just told that, but I like to have a visual there for myself. 1, 2, 3, 4. And the Fat Quarter Shop was generous enough to put in our boxes, so why not? Okay, so Now, these are the sides that I've trimmed, 6 and 7. So I want to make sure I'm sewing to these two sides to start. So I'm going to line it up with the edge because I've already trimmed that to the 1/4 inch. And I'm going to sew all the way off of this block. Clearly not going to interfere, but now I know it won't. Okay, so we'll get ready to press this and work on the other block. All right, so the floral goes on the side that we've cut. Make sure that's 6 or 7. Doesn't matter if you do 6 or 7 first. For that matter, you could have done 8, 9 first, and it would have been just fine. As long as you're doing opposite corners, you'll be good. But for demonstration purposes, I did try to choose the right number. Yep, I could see that dropped. Okay, so now we'll go press this and trim this last 2 sides. So what do you guys think? Are you enjoying doing these foundation paper pieces? Is this something new or something you've always done and loved? I kind of mentioned in the last video that I was a little bit resistant to adding something to my stash that I was going to have to repurchase all the time. And, those consumables can kind of start to add up. I was glad to get away from embroidery with all those consumables, to be quite honest. But I really feel like these are worth it and they give me a lot better result at the end. Well, this one doesn't want to tear at all. There we go. So we'll trim these guys up. And we've got the last 2. Okay, let's get those last 2 squares on. Okay, let's go press and trim it up. All right, so we're just going to press these all the way open, get them nice and flat. If you need to throw them under a clapper for a minute, do that before you trim them out. Okay, so now we'll get ready to give these a trim. It's going to be that same 4.5-inch ruler. So I didn't get all the way to the edge. Okay, so there's our final shape. I'll just pull the papers off. Trim up this other one. So I am kind of lucky. My daughter still really likes to pull off the papers for me. So if I make a big stack of them, she'll pull them off while we watch TV in the evening. And then she kind of likes to do it. And she really loves this Tula powder, and she's keeps coming back to it, going, I'm so excited about this quilt. And I am too. So these are pretty easy to pull off too. I just start from the outside, work my way around. If it wants to be finicky, again, you might think about changing to that 90 needle. If you'll crease it along that line, sometimes it helps. A lot of times you don't need to do all that, but if you're having one that's being particularly difficult, that might be a good idea. Like this one, like this one. Okay, so I'll go ahead and get that other one pulled apart, and I'll meet you right back here. Okay, guys, the last step in our book for this month is to do this corner block right here. So we're going to take these blocks that we just made, these four, plus the ones we made for last month, and we're going to arrange them, this is not the right order, into our 9 patch. So we want to get them oriented in this same order. So up here in the top, we'll get the green woodworking one, and then it will be our economy block with the polka dots, and then the green with the green border, and then our square and a square. My birds are flying the other way. Let's do this. Okay. And then the one that has the fruit on it, our other economy block. I think I want my diamonds to go this way. And then our rainbow block will be here at the bottom. And then our square and a square. Which way should my birds go? I think that way. And then this blue dot box is going to go towards the middle. So the instructions say to press this open as we go. So we're just going to sew this like a normal 9 patch. So everybody's kind of got their personal preference on that. I like to start on the left side, and I'm going to just flip this one over and sew this on. And I'll do this for this whole row. And I'm going to chain piece between the blocks. So we'll head over to the machine. Go ahead and swap my presser foot. Almost all of the blocks that we did need to not be the guided foot because it's too hard to sew if you're not on the edge of your fabric. Whenever I switch my foot, I do like to check and make sure I've got everything aligned. Okay, so this is my top left and my middle piece, and we're going to stitch these together. Then I'm going to grab the next row. So this is just keeping everything right in order. And then my last row. And I'll cut my thread and pull my chain pieces right back through. And then I just flip this guy open, double check, make sure I like that corner. It looks good. And I'll do my top right hand block. Flip it open, double check my corner. I just love these square and a square because it just makes it so effortless to get everything aligned exactly where you want it.
Okay. Last one, check that point. We're still good. Okay, let's go press it. Okay, you guys know me. I really love to nest a seam. So I decided for this project, I was going to nest this seam and then I'm going to press the next one open. So that means for this one, I'm going to press towards the outside so that I'm pressing away from that square and a square center. And for this one, I'm going to press towards the middle so that I'm pressing away from that square and square again, or the economy block anyways. And then on this last one, I'm going to press away from that center. So if you are a press it open kind of person, then please press it open. Okay, so now we're just going to nest those seams and stitch these 3 rows together. So just pick a side, any side. Now I want to nest between the bright green and this floral. It'd be easy to accidentally nest on the wrong seam and then feel like you had an extra inch of fabric for some reason. And again, if I'm going to pin, especially for a nested seam, I usually end up pinning on both sides. I do like these little house pins because they are smaller, but sometimes pins will distort, so you've got to keep an eye on that. Okay. My stitch length is still at a 1. Probably don't need it that low. Okay, take a peek, make sure I didn't cut off any points. They look good. That one's kind of tight, so I probably need to be careful on this one. We'll take these and pin them as well. Okay. So there we have it, guys. This is our first real block that we've put together for this month's or for this sew along. I'll go ahead and press these seams open when I get to the pressing station, and then we'll have 4 blocks exactly like this at the end of this month. All right, guys, that is a wrap on this month's block. I hope you've enjoyed sewing it out with me. I definitely am really liking this pattern that Fat Quarter Shop has put together. I'm loving the Tula Pink fabrics. As you know, I've said it before, they're a little bit outside of my normal wheelhouse, and it is so fun to do something that's just a little bit different. And I have to admit, my daughter kind of walks through. She's been helping me pull the paper piecing off a little bit. And she's like, Mom, I really love this quilt. So it's nice to have her kind of involved and excited about quilting. So I hope you've enjoyed watching this video. If you do like any of my tutorials or my unboxing videos, please hit that like and subscribe. It helps me out a ton. And I would love to see what you guys are working on over in our Facebook group. I really want to sew this out with some other fabrics too. I guess I'm just a glutton for punishment. I occasionally make a quilt once. Usually I make the quilt more than one time just because I want to see it in other fabrics. I'm a bit of a dork. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed sewing this one out with me, and I'll see you guys back here next month.